So by now you know the story. We put the 100,000 Rand into this account at GD247.com way back in November of 2012. We've been doing fine. We've been doing very well, in fact. We're right up now to 132,000. So that's been a fantastic week for us because we sort of idled sideways at about 124, Ollie. What's taken us there has been the strength of the overall market and the fact that some of our core holdings have been doing some very heavy lifting, and I'm thinking particularly here of Aspen. What I've done, sometimes we do different sort of cross sections and looking at the portfolio. What I've done in this instance was to pick up on your point of position sizing. For starters, we've got net exposure of around 300,000 Rand, which means in effect that we didn't take all of the money and put it all on with the maximum possible gearing. And what's also important to note is that the biggest portfolio position we have is in fact relatively modest, because we knew we were going to have lots of different stock conversations, so we couldn't put it all on one stock on Monday and then on another one on Tuesday. So the larger positions we have are things like Woolies, Aspen, African Bank, there you go. So that's been doubled. It's not making us any money, in fact it's losing us 6,000 Rand. But even after it got doubled, it wasn't an enormous position. It only represented, I suppose, doing the maths out of my head, what is that, like 1 or 2% or something? Yeah, it's tiny. So net, we're doing fine, and I'm comfortable that there isn't anything that's going right out of the window. This is this platinum thing that we were talking about earlier. That's the one we entered into yesterday where I got the position scaling wrong. So for a while we had 7 of those things, and now I reduced it to 1. So we'll see how that plays out. That's basically net flat. And overall, this appears to be the total margin commitment we've got. So again, that's another measure of the conservatism. We've got an account which is worth 132,000. We've only tied up about 44,000 Rands worth of margin in there. Ollie, I know I'm throwing this at you in the sort of context of no conversation, but any observations about the portfolio? Any positions you'd be looking to take profits on? What about Aspen? I mean, there it is at an all-time high, making us pots of money.
Yeah, also once again, and this is what I'm always seem to get wrong, is I always cut my winning trades too early. So for a position like Aspen, I mean, it's still fundamentally, it's a fantastic stock.
Because there's that old line in trading about there's a tendency, what we do is we cut the flowers and we water the weeds.
Yeah. 100%.
And it's actually, it would be better if, in gardening terms, to cut the weeds and water the flowers. So that's a little bit of a trading homily that would probably be appropriate. Huh?
Yeah, even if you would say to yourself, well, if African Bank, if it keeps going lower, hold on to that winning stocks. The likes of Billiton have recovered fantastically well. Sasol is even higher today before we left. So, MTN is still, 172, 173, looking good. So in all, it looks good. Looks very
but
good.
It is something perhaps to keep in mind. Another point here to make is that we're about to shift the portfolio from a CFD platform to a new mini CFD thing, and the main reason is because it enables us to trade using mobile applications like iPads and iPhones. So what we're going to do in the next few weeks is actually close out the entire portfolio, go back to cash, and then reinitiate some of those positions on the new platform. I mean, when this was decided, my initial reaction was, well, that sounds a bit questionable, but then I reminded myself that sometimes it's not a bad idea just to clear the decks, because when you have something like this and some of these positions you've been in for months, you start falling in love with them. So it'd actually be good sort of cleansing experience to bullet them all, and then we can then reinitiate and have a look at what we want to be in forthcoming weeks.
Yeah, of course, because also what you've got to realize when you trade in the CFDs is that you are paying funding on a daily rate.
Absolutely.
So, you don't want to hold positions for 2 to 3 years, because even though you might do fantastically well, your funding is going to eventually start eating into those profits. So, the mini CFDs is exactly the same concept, and yeah, I think that would be a good thing.